6:53 now. Bill Cosby, today it's official. He is going to trial on sexual misconduct. He's facing something like 30 years in prison. Let's talk to Chris Lewis, criminal defense attorney. He's tried over 200 jury trials. Chris, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. So do you think that this case should proceed?
I think it should proceed. What we've heard is pretty much the same claims from four patterns. These women is most of his conduct he's not going to have to stand trial for because everything exceeds the statute of limitations. This is the only one within that statute limitation.
Okay, let me give you just a moment because you are still cutting in and out. So I don't know if it's the exact location you're in, but you basically what you're talking about is what 50 or so women have accused him of this kind of conduct. He's denied all of this, but most of the cases are beyond the statute of limitations, as you said. Tell me this though: in this case with this woman, Andrea Constant, she knew he was giving him pills. She says he was giving her to quote take the edge off. So he was giving it to her up front, and the other allegation from the defense is not allegation, but what they're pointing out is that look, she spent time with him. Not only before, but after, this alleged assault, that they actually were together many times after that. Well, what do you make of that?
Well, this is somebody that he obviously knew, and she looked up to him. She saw him as a mentor. I think that she had some anxiety. That's why he offered the pills. But now that we know a little bit about how he did things, what we see is what he was really trying to do was he was trying to set her up. He was trying to drug her, and he had a plan all along, unbeknownst to her. She is the perfect type of victim for him because she had implicit trust in him and she looked up to him.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about her spending time with him after this incident? Is that going to be an issue for her or in the trial?
Yeah, it is going to be an issue. It's going to be something that the defense is going to spend a lot of time on just because it seems inconsistent. People tend to believe that if somebody has sexually assaulted you, if they've taken advantage of you in that manner, that you certainly wouldn't ever choose to be around that person in any type of setting willingly at any point in the future. So that's something the defense is going to focus on. But I'm sure they're going to have a lot of experts that say that you can't point to a victim, especially a victim of sexual assault in this situation, and say that there's any particular way that each and every one of them are going to act.
Now, in the timing, though, this happened in 2004. The fact that this is now being pursued, 12 years later, is that going to be a factor in the trial?
Yeah, but typically it would be. In this situation, though, think about how much press Bill Cosby has received. He's an iconic figure, and it was just a snowball effect. One came forward, and then 5 came forward, and then next thing we know, 40 people are coming forward with almost identical stories. So I know the defense is going to try to keep out all of that. A jury is supposed to make a decision based on the facts of this case. I just don't know how you find a jury pool that's not well versed in this case.
Yeah, how is that going to work? I mean, everyone's at least somewhat aware of the case. How is a jury going to be chosen when this has been in the news for so long?
So what they do is they bring them in during the voir dire process, jury selection process, and they simply ask them. And if a person's heard about it to the point where they've formed an opinion, I mean, I don't know if you remember years ago, the feds were trying to take down Roger Clemens, and there was a big trial in D.C., and the defense team thought everyone knew who Roger Clemens was. And surprisingly, they were able to seat a jury, and a lot of people that didn't know about the accusations about Roger Clemens, and some of them who had no idea who Roger Clemens was. I don't think we're going to have this situation with Bill Cosby, but you're probably going to be able to find 12 people who have not read the news, who have not kept abreast of everything that's going on with Bill Cosby.
Everyone knows who he is, though, right? That's
doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Do you see that affecting the potential outcome, his celebrity status?
Yeah, but in this situation, I don't see it as something that helps him. Typically, celebrities enjoy a little bit more presumption of innocence than the rest of us do. In this situation, I think it works against him because think about the image that he had, and nothing could run more contradictory to that image than the true-life accusations against him.
By the way, Chris Lewis is a criminal defense attorney, over 200 jury trials. He's based down in Texas. The fact that they both agree, from what I understand, they both agree to the facts of what occurred, that he offered her the pills, she accepted them and took them. How are they going to really get to the bottom of this, something that happened so many years ago, other than just what the two of them say?
Well, in a lot of cases, what you're able to do is you're able to offer extraneous offenses. And as long as the extraneous offense is not to show conformity, that he acted in conformity with this conduct, but that this was a pattern, it showed a pattern, you're able to kind of prove up the instant offense by showing what he's done. And even though you can't prosecute the other ones, as long as the court allows the evidence of the extraneous offenses, then that can tend to paint a picture of what happened in this particular situation.
So are you saying they could bring some of these other women into the trial and have them testify?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because what's going to invariably happen is he is going to say, yes, we had sex. It was consensual. Yes, I gave her pills. I told her what they were. She had anxiety. She willingly took this. But this is all revisionist history that she chose to engage. And the only reason that I paid her off in 2006 was I didn't want my wife to find out. Then the state would be allowed under these extraneous offenses that are very similar to say, no, this is the way that you do things. This is your course of conduct, and we're going to show those.
And you think that we'll see maybe a dozen of these alleged victims showing up in court and testifying?
There will be a hearing outside the presence of the jury to determine which one, if any, or if all of these could potentially show a distinct pattern of Bill Cosby. If I were the prosecutor, as many of these that were willing to testify and that the judge said was relevant, I would trot every single one of them in there. He's
78. If he is found guilty, do you think he will be sent to jail or to prison in this case?
I think there's no doubt. Whoever does the sentencing, whether it's the judge or the jury, they're all at that point in time going to know his history. During the sentencing phase of trial, you're able to bring in prior bad acts. And even though you can't prosecute him, the jury would get to hear this. I think he does prison time. And I think if he gets sentenced to prison time in this, people 78 years old don't do well in prison. I don't see him living through it.
If you're his attorney defending him, how would you proceed at this point?
What I would do is I would try to keep all of the extraneous offenses out, have the jury just focus on this one instance, focus on their relationship, the fact that it was consensual. And if it wasn't consensual, why did she wait almost 12 years? And also there's an interesting angle where it looked like he might be able to have immunity based on what he said in the civil civil proceedings, because there's all this deposition testimony. But this new DA has said that he doesn't recognize there being any immunity agreement, and it's one of the reasons why the case is able to proceed.
So on what grounds, though, could you keep these other alleged victims from the courtroom?
The only way that the other alleged victims, well, right now they're not allowed in the courtroom because it would be highly prejudicial, and it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, but in terms of keeping them out of the trial stage in this case, how would you do that?
I think at least in Texas, I can tell you, it would be almost impossible because there are so many other crimes or reports that he did the same thing, that he drugged women and then he had sex with them against their will, and there's nothing that they could do. They were able to appreciate everything that would happen. It would show a pattern. If this case were in Texas, they would definitely come into evidence.
You think this is going to be televised?
No doubt about it.
Wow.
I mean, there is no OJ's televised. We have the one down in Casey Anthony down in Florida. It was televised all the way through. Yeah. No one is bigger than Bill Cosby.
Yeah, we're in for hours then. It's going to be wall-to-wall coverage, huh?
It will be wall-to-wall coverage.
You think he's going to end up being guilty in this case?
I do.
Yeah. Would you represent him? Would you represent him if he reached out to you?
I don't know a criminal defense lawyer that wouldn't represent him.
Okay. Even with suspicions that he might, in fact, be guilty, you're saying?
Yeah, everyone looks at it. How could you represent a guilty person or someone that you think is guilty? It's not always the issue is not always guilt innocence. Sometimes it's mitigation. Sometimes the state is offering something completely unreasonable. Sometimes there's legal arguments that might fly in the face of what factually occurred. Yeah. So all of those are part of the criminal justice process. But yeah, everyone deserves a good and a competent. And in this situation, he's got the money to pay for the best representation possible.
Do you think will he get a plea deal offer at some point to avoid prison, you think?
I don't know why they would offer him a plea deal. He's looking at 10 years in prison, 3 different counts, possible of 30 years, but the judge would have to stack the sentences, run them consecutive in order for them to be to get the entire 30 years. I don't see why it would behoove the prosecution to offer a plea deal. And you got to remember, Bill Cosby is still trying to preserve what little bit is left of his image. So I don't see him accepting a plea deal.
Chris Lewis, criminal defense attorney. CraneLewis.com is the website. Chris has tried over 200 jury trials. Today, Bill Cosby, Pennsylvania judge says there is enough evidence to pursue a trial here. So Bill Cosby is going to trial on accusations of sexual misconduct. Chris, thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys having me.